Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dynamics Fortnite Fridays.
Where we cover everything dynamics, great and small. Well, Bart, yesterday was the official first day of spring. I consider today the 21st, the first day of spring. So new
Agreed?
season coming up. Awesome.
Gotta love it. It's no longer meteorological spring; it's actual spring, right?
Yes, and yep, yes, it's the was it the vernal equinox? I think is what they call it.
Spring equinox, anyway. Whichever
Yeah,
one
it's
is
the vernal one.
spring.
It's like the autumnal is the fall one, but we'll talk
Okay.
about that in a few months. But anyways, this is where it's really special. I want to do a call out to my sister Amy, whose birthday is today. So happy birthday,
Oh,
Amy.
happy
So
birthday, Amy.
yeah, you'll have to watch the show.
Feel all balanced today, right? The same
Yeah,
amount of sunlight and darkness.
that's right. That's right. So
I
anyways, do you
wonder,
have,
have you tried balancing an egg?
so it's like I haven't I've like roughly heard of it. I don't know if that actually works. Does it only work on the equator or does it work on no,
I don't
yeah,
think
I
it
don't know.
works at all, but it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
an old wives' tale that you can balance an egg on its top or something like that on the equinox, but whatever.
probably not. Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyways, it's like bad joke start. What do you got for me this week, Bart?
So for anyone who is a slinky aficionado,
Okay.
what is the best time to wash your slinky?
Slinky, slinky. Dun, 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 dun. I know the jingle. Um, now I have an earworm for that jingle in my head. Thank you very much for that. Slinky. I don't know. What is it?
How about today when we start spring cleaning?
Oh, okay. That was awesomely bad. So that was really good. Okay. Very well
All right,
done.
what do you got? What do
So
you
it's like
got?
nice segue. Okay. This is terrible. So, what do you call a pudgy psychic?
Fat chance? I don't know.
Very close. A four-chin teller.
A fortune
Yeah,
teller.
that was awful.
Four chins.
That's
Who's got
yeah, that's
four? Oh, wow.
that's just you're well beyond that. So,
Oh,
okay, again, the content is way better than my joke. Yours was pretty satisfactory
well,
today. So,
I don't know. I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
It
okay,
was topical anyway.
yeah. So, what do you got for me?
All right. Well, let's start with a couple of announcements. So the very first one I didn't even write down. I'll try to make sure I put it on the blog when we blog, but I am on spring break with my son 2 weeks from today, and I think you've got some conflicts too. So we're just going to skip the show 2 weeks from today, and we'll be back in a month with all sorts of news.
Yep, that's like two fortnights.
Yeah. Second thing, Build is now out there. The website is live. Please register. The attendance is free if you just do the online version. If you want to go, that'd be even more fun. But that one actually has a little cost to it because of all the things that go along with the logistics of getting there and hotels and all the things in the event that you're entitled to. And then we also have the business applications launch event coming up at the end of next month. And you can register for that now as well to make sure you've got your spot virtually to attend and get the reminders and all those kind of things where we talk about all the things that are finally going live that are available in preview now in your environments. One more announcement, the Center of Excellence Starter Kit had an update come out for the March update. And so if you keep track of all of those updates and you're using the kit to help manage your Power Platform environments, then please take this update. There are some enhancements to it. Actually, no enhancements, a lot of break fixes to it. So we haven't seen enhancements on that in quite a while, and I'm kind of thinking all the investment we're doing in our Power Platform Admin Center are keeping the starter kit from getting as many enhancements, but a lot of break fixes. So along with that concept, we have announced managed security for the Power Platform. So managed security and governance is all about the things that you can do to protect and manage all the things that are going on in your Power Platform world. So there's all sorts of stuff about how to take a good security posture and understand where some telemetry is and all the things with data protection and what we used to call DLP rules. They're more kind of commonly referred to just as connector rules right now, but I think they'll be called connector action something or others here very shortly. We've got identity and access management and how to make sure that you're only giving the right permissions to the right people at the right time, how to make sure you're staying compliant, and how to deal with threats, and where is all of that logging, and what kinds of rules should you put in place to try to make sure that you are keeping everybody safe. So there's lots of good context around how a lot of those things come together in the rest of this article. It's quite good. So make sure and take a peek at it. And it's all talking about things that you can do today in this particular blog post. This isn't an announcement of something that is sort of coming way down in the future, but there will be lots of enhancements between now and build, and probably in build itself with other capabilities that are going to be brought forward. So this is a announcement, but lots of stuff in the works. The next one, I don't think I'm even going to click into. It is a really good blog post just on what Microsoft went through when we decided to deploy a Copilot Studio built agent enterprise-wide, which is over 100,000 people, and what we needed to do to plan for that, and how we wanted to make sure that it functioned properly and was available, and where it should show up, and all the other things that we did to secure it, and lots of good context about if you're thinking about a larger scale deployment of one of our agents, then this is a great blog post to sort of help you think through what those tasks look like. Another core concept that has been introduced is the concept of managed availability for Power Platform. So one of the things that's sort of outlined here is exactly how our failover strategy works for production environments in Power Platform. And this applies to Dynamics 365 as well. For near zero downtime, if something were to happen to an entire data center where things are operating, and what it looks like as you get down here with self-service disaster recovery, to be able to click a button to cause a failover to happen, whether that's for a compliance reason or you're just detecting something that you're not happy with where things are operating right now in our cloud. You can self-service just force a failover to happen to the redundant zone where that is happening, so that your users would be on a whole different data center and banks of servers and everything else. So nice enhancement there for managed availability. AI prompts are one of the superpowers in Power Platform to allow you to fine-tune functionality, whether that's as part of an automation that you use a Cloudflow to do, or whether that's part of an agent and you're part of having a conversation back and forth and you want to actually send something they typed along with some other data that you can bring forward to have AI do something really specific in one of these prompts and then return the result. So lots of places that those AI prompts are really powerful, and there's a new function from a model standpoint in those AI prompts. So you've been able to use GPT-4o and 4o Mini as the two different prompt LLM engines that can actually do the reasoning that you wanted the prompt to go do. But you can now also choose the O1 model for sort of that deep reasoning capability if the thing that you're trying to prompt this action to take care of needs a little bit more deep reasoning than the 4.0 or 4.0 Mini are able to do. So make sure and get in there and do all that. And there's just some nice helpful hints here on all the various ways you might think of using these AI prompts. Along with the model flexibility, we have announced a limited preview of in Copilot Studio itself, when you turn on the generative orchestration model, the more modern one, that it uses GPT-4 under the covers to do all of that reasoning. And we are now allowing certain customers to opt into a limited preview of being able to flip that reasoning model that does all that under the covers orchestration to GPT 4.5, which is got a little better reasoning capability under the covers and just a little better model response and zippiness and some of the other things that go along with a premium model. So if you're interested, then there's a link here that takes you to a form that you have to submit, and then we will reach out to you and see if we can get that turned on in your tenant. Power Pages And the card gallery, it's been sort of in preview for quite some time, and we have now finally gone generally available with that card gallery and put some enhancements in place with multi-language support and being able to put link buttons to other pages, not just to data records, and put some optional fields in that you can sort of leverage and do all sorts of different things with. But the big news is it's generally available. So use it in production workloads if you like that card gallery. In Power Automate, we have done some nice things from a telemetry standpoint of what shows up in Automation Center and Power Platform Admin Center in two different ways, especially in the new Power Platform Admin Center. So we've got ways to look across the entire tenant of things that are going on with all of your automations, with ways to troubleshoot them in that Automation Center in each environment. We've got near real-time logging for your desktop flows, and this desktop flow recommendations and self-healing and some things like that, if you're using the Power Automate desktop capability, are also in there. So lots of detail about how a lot of this stuff works and where it shows up. So look through that if you are using our automation platform at scale. This next one is more of just an announcement that the Power Customer Advisory Teams that works with our customers all the time, that we love to just call Power Cat because it sounds cool, have launched a webinar series. It's a really nice in-depth webinar every few weeks. And we've got a couple of them that have already happened that if you want to go watch the recording or download the presentation, they're sitting out here. If you want to make sure that you can attend some of these future ones, then it would be great to have you register and make sure that it shows up on your calendar and show up. And they'll also have the recordings and everything out there. So pay attention and see if you can learn something in one of those webinars. Another big announcement is Copilot Studio now has some simplified ways to do integrations with a thing called the Model Context Protocol. And I was not familiar with MCP or Model Context Protocol before we made this announcement just a couple days ago. But it is kind of this Swiss Army knife aggregation engine of how to use connectors and rules in order to connect to data sources and try to make sure that you can take appropriate actions, kind of like you can do in Copilot Studio in a low-code pattern, but with a few more tools in your tool belt and way more kind of ubiquitous on the connector ecosystem, supposedly, than what Power Platform has even. So if you build MCP protocol servers that can serve all sorts of other needs across your organization, you can tap into those really easily now inside of Copilot Studio as well, so that whatever you're building there, you've got another way to do the front end with Copilot Studio and have all the other capabilities to take control with the topics capability if you need to have a very distinct answer that you're 100% in control of, where MCP uses more of that generative AI capability under the covers to go do what it does, from what I understand. Some steps on how to create it and make sure that you've got a custom connector if you're doing anything really funky. And then we should have a standard connector show up in our connector pool very soon that they kind of show on this video. So Model Context Protocol integration, pretty big news in that Copilot Studio realm. Two last things on the Power Platform side are that we are doing more with the automatic deletion of Power Platform environments that now also includes the default environment if that default environment becomes not used for a certain period of time. So all the rules about sort of what is happening, how you can see that it's coming, what actions you can take if something goes awry and you're letting things expire, when are the inactivity-based cleanups happening? And this is a little bit different on regular Power Platform environments than Teams environments, so pay attention to both of those articles. And then things that are going on even in the default environment now, and kind of what's going on with different timelines and what's an activity and all kinds of different things about it. So I thought it would be a good time, since we're starting to do this on even default environments now, to make sure people know what those rules look like. And then if you are a maker in Copilot Studio realm and you have done very much with actions, one of the choices that you get when creating an action is to look at the outputs, and you can flip a mode of your outputs between specific, which is what it defaults to, and all. And I could not find any documentation on what this was. And I finally found someone on our product team who told me exactly what the difference is between specific and all. So I put it right here in this list of our environment of our show notes, and I will make sure it gets posted to our blog after the session today so that anyone else can look at it. And it's essentially that specific keeps only the first level of JSON, and it will take out anything that was null in that payload and won't expand any of the nodes. All expands everything in the JSON payload that gets sent to the LLM so that you give it all of the data that is contained in whatever payload you're taking the action on. And so that you can see why at times when you're using specific, it won't give you all the accurate responses because it doesn't have access to all the data. In that scenario, you need to flip it to all. If you don't have problems with specific, you should just leave it as specific because it's cheaper and faster when it runs in specific mode. All right, two last things. Our D365 Contact Center, which is Contact Center as a service, doesn't have to be tied to Dynamics on the CRM side. Can be if you're using Dynamics Customer Service. No matter which version of it you're using, we are now, as of March 5th, HIPAA compliant. So it's really nice to know if you are a health provider that you can use this contact center platform and all of the data that it collects to do all of the things that it does as a contact center service will be HIPAA compliant. We also are PCI compliant. We are ISO compliant. We're SOC 2 compliant. We've got a lot of good compliance things. And then there's a nice list of some of the more recent features in our contact center platform. So look at that if you are shopping or using our contact center platform. And in other news around our contact center as a service capability, we just announced that we're also allowing for Teams phone extensibility in the contact center platform. So you no longer have to use Azure Communication Services, even though Teams Phone is based on it. You can use more of the SaaS platform that is part of Teams. And if you're leveraging Teams across your enterprise as a unified communications platform, you can actually use it to carry the dial tone and even have some other things like the Teams calling plans, direct routing, and operator connect capabilities that are part of Teams Phone, all in action in conjunction with all the routing rules and AI capabilities of the D365 Contact Center suite. So lots of kind of interesting things about how that will come to fruition. This is public preview starting next month. So this is a great announcement, but this one is not one that you can use unless you're in the private preview right now, but it's coming soon if you want to start playing with that. And Dan, that wraps up what I had for Power Platform and CE functionality.
So some good content. No real updates, but there's some really good information that I pulled out that I wanted to share with everybody this fortnight. So first of all, I went through the project operations updates over the last couple shows, but I also wanted to show you a couple other things that I kind of missed on some areas, right? So it's like, so we have the project operations updates. It's like when the dates they're going to be released. So just be aware of that. But also there's some updates on there that if you drill down in this, it talks about the two types of project operations. The finance base, the Dynamics 365 finance and supply chain, of course, and then the Dataverse base, and kind of talks about those elements, and then of course the update schedule. So kind of a nice little thing for you to read through. I'm not going to go through it, but you can read through it. The next is, the project timesheet mobile application. So there's a nice little write-up on this. It's like, we've had it out for a bit. The last version was deprecated in December of 2024, but, there's some nice documentation, kind of talks a little about, that it's available for Apple and Android. Unfortunately, not the old Windows phones. I don't know if those are still usable anymore. Just had to throw that in there, right? But it talks about, how to use it, what you can get out of it, right? How you subject submit those. You could use the timesheets that are optimized for mobile as an alternative instead of the mobile application. So it's just basically a web view of that, but this is actually just a lot cleaner, a lot tighter, a lot easier. So you can create timesheets that are like automatically based on the the current date. So it's like, okay, the current period that you're in. And if it spans multiple periods, it'll actually give you tabs in the bottom, so you can actually go week by week and tab through those. And you can, of course, copy across the existing, your favorites, or from the assignments that you have that you're assigned to these certain projects, because you can delineate or what projects that you're going to see, or filter what projects you're going to see based upon what you're assigned to. And of course, that's based upon the setup and the parameters. But you can also enter things like, the category that it's in, right? Is this an item? Is it a fee? Is it hours? So on and so forth. And he's, the sales tax group, the item tax group's going to go into, of course, the customer, and any of the line properties. And the line properties are going to say, is this billable or not? And there's some more things underneath that, but basically that's what it does. Add some comments and submit it. So again, kind of a nice little write-up. If you're using the project operations for the field, clearly this is the way to go. The next thing, and I thought this was a really nice write-up on the Commerce Data Exchange. And so for you folks using commerce or e-commerce, the Commerce Data Exchange is used to make master data available, right, from headquarters to various channels. So if you use a POS system and you want to work it offline or be able to take an order, that's the first rule of commerce. It's like no matter what, you take an order, right? By the cloud, it's like, so you have maybe a POS that you want to sync up with, or an online store that you want to sync up with and send information such as pricing or item master, configurations, dimensional information out of that. And so what it does is like it distributes that master data. There's batches on that. The CDX periodically creates downloads, P jobs into these offload the Commerce Data Exchange for the POS or the commerce scale units. Now you can do this in a full or incremental load. It's like, of course, the first time you have to do a full load, but you can just do incremental loads with price changes or item changes or new things on that. And then the downloads may have more than one job. So we might have just one for pricing, one for item information, one for customer specific or discount programs and things like that. But you have to make sure you stay up to date, because those are critical for store functioning. Now the administrators can view and monitor all these downloads, right? And they can do this from the headquarters, and then it'll sync up with the commerce scale unit. That's the offline. So the POS and devices can actually run offline. You can use those not only for POS, but if you actually have some advanced pricing that you want to sync up with some, where you need, like, there's some latency, like at a different part of the world, that's actually a good way to use it. So, but you want to run those as frequent as you need those, right? And then get those on the on certain intervals to have everything updated, right? So, anyways, it's just kind of a nice overview of how it works. And there's an advanced view that's now available to actually check and monitor, see if there's any issues with this, with failing jobs and suspended jobs and things like that. So I thought that was a nice little article on the Commerce Data Exchange. There's also a nice FAQ on Copilot AI summarization, right? And what it does. So it basically summarizes things from the summarizes in headquarters, right? Because it's like we have a headless commerce engine that we can run these things offline, or if you will, or it's like independently away from a connection. So it gives a summary of all of the data and then any risks that you have, right? And so it uses all the posted and unposted statements. So it's like the posted statements are the ones that are actually through, unposted that haven't actually been posted into the summary. But it gives the transactions for the total sale, any risks, any returns without receipts, any expense transactions, or any price overrides. It's like, so what is that? Typically, those are fraudulent type of things that you want to know about. If somebody's actually giving some discounts or doing all these returns without receipts on this, it's like, is somebody kind of like trying to cheat the system, right? And fraudulently. So it checks on that AI just to make sure you have that. And it also gives you insights into product misconfigurations and that, right? So the nice thing is it kind of gives you information so intense, so you can actually get immediate feedback within the system. So kind of nice how it works, right? But it also talks about how it's been evaluated as well too, right? So it's checked against comparing the results that you have, and we did that manually, versus the current values versus what it says. It's like in the entities versus what it's saying with the AI. And it also checks against the role. So if you're missing privileges, are you going to be able to see this data, right? And also, it's like if you have null data or like zero data, AI historically gives hallucinations. Well, we make sure that we have that as an exception. It's not going to actually give that, so it doesn't give you false data on that. So we take care of that, or we take care of that. And we also only send pre-aggregated data to the LLM. So it only uses that data that you have into the system. And there's also something called the CAPI, the Copilot API. And I wasn't really familiar with this, and you might have mentioned it before, Bart, but I might have missed it, right? So that's a new API just for Copilot. So I don't know if it's a CAPI or a KPI or whatever we're going to call it, right? So we we also make sure that we have operational controls within that, right? For the system. So confirm that you have enough control over it, and then you have the permissions. So with the data there, so you're not using data in an undesirable way. And the last thing is, it's like you can revoke things or actually turn it down or narrow things down if you'd like for those responses with that API. So I thought it was a nice little read there. I thought I'd share with that. And the last thing is the Business Central updates. And so in 2025, there's actually 25.5, there's really no updates. But I wanted to go back a little bit because I haven't spoken much about Business Central in the last few shows. So on update 25.4, there's some changes. It's like, okay, so the chat for Copilot, you can do it anywhere, right? We extend the Copilot chat across all countries in that. So you can do it, but it's only certified in English, so just be aware of that. And then also, we did some package resources for access to AI within the programming language within Business Central. And then 25.3, I thought I'd go back a little bit of that. And there's just all kinds of more, there's more countries we expanded the Copilots. Again, the only thing that's certified is supported in English, but there's all kinds of different countries that are, and then we've also improved security with Outlook integration. So a little bit about Business Central. Not much in the feature function, but a whole lot in Copilot, and that's actually where the world's headed, so that's okay. So there was also a really good blog on business or BPP, right? Business Performance Analytics. And it talks about the business performance analytics, what it does, right? So, and it talks about the difference between like traditional, FP&A and business performance analytics, what we do, right? So traditional systems are outside the systems. They try to juggle spreadsheets and all kinds of data sources. And it makes it very difficult to actually be reactive. Well, the way that our engineers designed this was they're built into with the ERP. So we can actually control and tackle those problems across. And then rather dealing with siloed and batch interfaces, we get insights directly from the system itself. But it's not only financial systems. It is across HR, it's across production, sales, purchasing, and of course the financials, right? And it's all done in a single model. And that single model is like make sure that it's process aware across out of the box, right? So it understands information, whether it's sales, whether it's purchasing, whether it's financials, so on and so forth. It's always up to date because we're feeding the information always up to date instead of running batch updates all the time. It's context rich, so we can look at the dimensional data. So if you want to slice and dice things, it's like across a different warehouse, across a different site, across a different business unit. So it's contextually aware, and actually so we can model that data very easily. And of course, it's governed and protective. It's role-based security. It's got data encryption, and of course, there's centralized governance, which Bart talks about all the time. So I'm not gonna skip through that. But also, there's agentic behavior in this, right? So it can give you autonomous monitoring and alerts. So this gives you a like, okay, if there's an anomaly that's detected, or there's something that happens, let's say that there's like an exceptionally large sale, or there was a deviation in like in a financial record or something like that, it can notify, it can give you an alert to that automatically, so you can actually work within that. We can also make proactive decisions on that. So they receive, the managers receive recommendations. So it's like, okay, the sales are really low. Here's what we need to do, or our margins are really low. We need to do something, right? And it's just like help you get at that. But there's also automated execution. So it's like, okay, first one is alert. Second one is give you a recommendation. Third point of this is we're going to automate this execution, right? So it's like if something happens, we need to trigger another task. Do we actually need to send an email? That's one thing, right? Do we actually need to run another report within D365, trigger that? Or do we need to actually trigger something that maybe there's the cash is low in one bank that we actually need to trigger that notifies somebody that they need to put some more cash or transfer some things over. Could be an example for something like that. So a couple other things, there's integration into Fabric, right? So there's a one lake architecture, and that one lake architecture combine data from like just not only the ERP system or other like CRM systems, but things like IoT or archive data or data from other places. There's also direct lake mode, so we can ping the data um, um, right away. It's like instead of like traditional batch processing, we have it quickly within moments of it. And then of course we can use Copilot Studio and advanced AI to do some advanced analysis within that to be able to get some insights into that data. So I thought that was really good. So one thing that I really liked on this, and it kind of spells out, the different uses of it. So first of all, there's business performance analytics, and that's going to get insights into the operational performance of financials or sales or whatever it might be, right? And so really this is kind of like digging for things. And then there's business performance planning. What if we're forecasting out? So you're forecasting against a budget, you're forecasting financials, you're forecasting cash flows, which we have other AI tools within ERP. But that's what business performance planning does, okay? Now there's this third component with supply chain planning. So this is a premium SKU. This is the supply chain planning. So if you want to optimize inventory and forecast against the goods you need to purchase for finished goods and the subcomponents and run that across the whole supply chain, that's what that's used for. So kind of spells it out really nicely, right? And then talks about like the industry stuff, but anyways, I thought this was a good article. If you are an ERP user or a finance and supply chain user and you haven't delved into business performance analytics, read this article and then start inching that direction, because it's a really valuable, useful tool. There's also a nice overview on engineering change management. So engineering change management, I'm not going to spend too much time, but if you have like product data management or a product lifecycle management or engineering change management, this is really what it really manages. And then what it does, it brings structure and management for the release schedule of those items, because it's like a lot of companies, they pollute their item master and they might have 3 of the same product, or they don't have a nice version control within those products. And it creates a life cycle with a workflow and approval process through the whole thing. So I'll quickly talk about the different features. So first of all, it's like product versioning. So it's like, okay, we're doing this version and this can be replaced with the other one. So we make sure we build this in a bill of material, or purchase this version of it, right? At a revision level. Then you have like the enhanced release product capabilities. So you put in the item master, you release it at different legal entities, you publish it, and then make sure that it's approved as you go through. With different validation rules, improve lifecycle management on that, so the release schedule and the business process is going to be followed. And the 2 most common things you think about with like engineering change management is like an engineering change request. So it might come from the shop floor, it might come from another engineer, says, okay, we need to improve this product because we don't have enough clearance, so on and so forth on this, right? And then if that request has been approved, then we actually have to go redesign this product or make it the change on it, or maybe subcomponents on the bill of material, so on and so forth. And that becomes an engineering change order itself. So it's a really nice article, talks about the engineering change management. I thought that was it was a good read. Now the last thing I have for features on this is like it's a nice discussion on like the cleanup routines within 365. Now these databases can get huge, right? All the sales orders, all the production orders, all the purchase orders, all the inventory transactions. And so, that helps you clean up the system. But there's a nice warning right here. It says it's important. You should only run this after you run the detailed analysis, so you make sure that you're getting rid of data that's no longer required. I think that's common sense, but let me just remind you again, don't get rid of it until you've done it, and make sure you test it, right? So there's all kinds of things for system administration, the notifications, the batch job history, things that you don't need to do. The database log, let's clean up the old information that you don't need that may be years old, right? On data management, the job history for general ledger, all the journals from general ledger, accounts receivable, accounts payable, you can delete all those old ones that you don't need. Retail and commerce, just like the email notifications for all customers, just like when you use your order. Sales and marketing, how many sales orders do you do? Let's clean up the sales orders or quotations or return orders and all that history under that. Purchasing, you can clean up all the purchase order transactions, requests for quotations, and then replenishment orders. Warehouse, there's a lot, because warehouse, you think about the data that goes out, you're touching it, you're doing reservations, you're doing actually pick requests. It's like you're doing wave picks or wave recommendations and picks and so on and so forth. So the work order creation history, you don't need that. Containerization, so put it in a box, we don't need that. Some old stuff. The wave processing history, all of these things, cycle count, we can kind of get rid of some of that old stuff, which doesn't really matter because you're posting all the results from that cycle count from it anyway. So clean up on that, clean up on inventory, lots of transactional history, inventory lookups, dimension stuff that there's some cleanups. And then, production control, all the old job orders, all the old cost management stuff that you're actually, these costing sheets. And lastly, master planning and project management. So, a nice way to clean it up. But again, I'll hazard the warning of make sure you understand what you're getting rid of, that you don't need some of these old components, on there. So that's what I have for content this week. And of course, Bart, we always have the solution updates.
There's quite a few in there, and a couple of them actually apply to F&O type functionality, like the project operations stuff, whether it's on the Dataverse. Well, they're always Dataverse solutions that I keep track of, but a lot of the functionality ties into more supply chain management or whatever.
Yeah, like the man planning and the project operations, but it's like, everything's moving over to the PPAP anyways. So
and even the business performance analytics. So all of those were solution updates, and all of those I found in Power Platform Admin Center. So, that's not surprising. Anyway, great show. We'll see everyone in a month for even more news.
Right. Take care, everybody.